So we got to talk about this absolutely crazy story from a Venezuelan security guard that was helping to protect Nicolas Maduro. Now, I know I'm a couple of days late on this story, and I do want to apologize. Had a sore throat, voice kind of disappeared on me. It's still a little shaky, so if my voice cracks or something, I'm gonna apologize in advance. All right, I'm apologizing in advance. But either way, we back, baby. We back. Now, Caroline Levitt actually reposted part of this. I want to throw that up on the screen. So she posted, "Stop what you are doing and read this." I mean, what is being talked about here is absolutely mind-boggling, and honestly, it makes me even more proud, if that was even possible, to be an American, to know that we are genuinely putting fear in the world. You know, it gives me a little more comfort. You know what I mean? It gives me a lot of comfort. So I want to get into this. Check out this clip here.
Has spoken, and you got to hear what he said. It's in Spanish, but I'll translate. Also, Trump announced that, the cartels, they're going after him in Mexico. The whole vibe of Latin America has changed because of what happened in Venezuela. And now that we're getting firsthand accounts from people that were there, the soldier says they didn't hear him coming. He says the Americans had technology superior to anything they've ever seen. Everything that they were using for radar, for anything, was completely taken offline. They had drones, and the drones were taking out bases and taking out things faster. They didn't have no technology. They've never had to fight against drones. He also talks about that there was only 8 helicopters. There was only 20 men that were sent in, and those 20 men killed hundreds of their men, and none of those soldiers were injured. He talks about it felt like they were firing 300 rounds a minute. Nothing they've ever seen, nothing that they can compete with. And then he also talks to the fact that the Americans had some kind of sonic shock boom that was sent out, and everybody immediately started bleeding profusely out of their nose. They couldn't even gather themselves because whatever was sent at them made them fall to their knees and vomit blood out of their mouth and out of their noses. They were incapacitated immediately. He says he never wants to go through that again. Doesn't want to have to fight with the Americans again. He's sending warnings to everybody out there that you think you can fight the Americans. You don't even know what their weaponry is like and what they're capable of. 20 men took out hundreds, and that's starting to spread all through Latin America. And now they're not saying, if you want me, come and get me anymore. They're like, oh shit. Especially after Trump says, hey, Mexico, you're on the list too.
Wild stuff, man. Absolutely wild stuff. So let's read this. This account from a Venezuelan security guard loyal to Nicolas Maduro is absolutely chilling, and it explains a lot about why the tone across Latin America suddenly changed. Security guard. On the day of the operation, we didn't hear anything coming. We were on guard, but suddenly all our radar systems shut down without any explanation. The next thing we saw were drones, a lot of drones, flying over our positions. We didn't know how to react. And guys, keep this in mind as well. If I remember correctly, the radar systems that they had came from China. China gave them the radar systems, and I believe it was Russia that gave them their anti-aircraft artillery. So these are two adversaries. Their equipment was ineffective against what we had. Ineffective. And I'm gonna come back to. I just wanted to throw that out there, but I'm gonna come back to that point later on. China's equipment was ineffective, and so was Russia's. Just keep that in mind. Interviewer. So what happened next? How was the main attack? Security guard. After those drones appeared, some helicopters arrived, but there were very few. I think barely 8 helicopters. From those helicopters, soldiers came down, but a very small number, maybe 20 men. But those men were technologically very advanced. They didn't look like anything we fought against before. Probably talking about some of the equipment that they had on them. Night vision and everything else. And then the battle began. Security guard, yes, but it was a massacre. We were hundreds, but we had no chance. They were shooting with such precision and speed, it seemed like each soldier was firing 300 rounds per minute. We couldn't do anything. Interviewer, and your own weapons? Didn't they help? Security guard, no help at all. Because it wasn't just the weapons. At one point, they launched something. I don't know how to describe it. It was like a very intense sound wave. Suddenly, I felt like my head was exploding from the inside. We all started bleeding from the nose. Some were vomiting blood. We fell to the ground and were unable to move. Interviewer, your comrades, did they manage to resist? Security guard, no, not at all. Those 20 men, without a single casualty, killed hundreds of us. We had no way to compete with their technology, with their weapons. I swear I've never seen anything like it. We couldn't even stand up after that sonic weapon or whatever it was. Interviewer, so do you think the rest of the region should think twice before confronting the Americans? Security guard, without a doubt, I'm sending a warning to anyone who thinks they can fight the United States. They have no idea what they're capable of. After what I saw, I never want to be on the other side of that again. They're not to be messed with. Interviewer, and now that Trump has said Mexico is on the list, do you think the situation will change in Latin America? Security guard, definitely. Everyone is already talking about this. No one wants to go through what we went through. Now everyone thinks twice. What happened here is going to change a lot of things, not just in Venezuela, but throughout the region. Now that's chilling. If I'm one of these other countries, mainly Russia or China, I am shaking in my boots. Equipment that I gave to Venezuela was ineffective in stopping Americans from kidnapping Nicolas Maduro. Ineffective. It was rendered obsolete when they swooped in. Didn't work. I was having a conversation with somebody a few days ago, and I was like, man, I was thinking, ain't it interesting how Russia is struggling with Ukraine still? Like, yeah, I know we've given Ukraine equipment and whatnot, blah, blah, blah. But isn't Russia supposed to be like this dominant powerhouse? Ain't that supposed to be Russia? Why are they struggling with Ukraine? And I just started thinking, like, maybe, just maybe, Russia isn't who they claim to be. Maybe. And now I'm starting to believe that with China. Granted, it was just the radar systems, but if you don't know where the enemy is, how are you going to hit them? You got to see what you hit, right? And if your radar systems are rendered useless against us just going in to take Nicolas Maduro, right? Maybe we pulled out all the stops to go and get him. But I have a sneaky suspicion that that's definitely not the case.
We have an update to the conversation from the Venezuelan soldier that we brought up yesterday. He talks about the initial group of soldiers that were taken out were Maduro's security force that was comprised of some Cubans and some Venezuelans. He said all the Cubans were taken out right to the dome. He talks about all of the air defense systems that were knocked out by Tomahawks with intense explosions. In one instance, it knocked that system into the ocean. It landed on a boat and killed 5 patrolmen. He talks about 4 F-16s that were taken out. There was 4 civilians that were unalived. He talks about one woman that was standing in the front of the naval base. They took out all the bases and all the air defense systems. That woman was knocked 5 meters into a house. That's how intense that explosion. This is going to be super interesting. You're going to find this to be interesting. He switches and does a 180 and says, hey, listen, we shouldn't have a problem being the 51st state of the United States. He says the amount of investment that's coming into the infrastructure, into the educational system, into the hospitals, and into the oil facilities are going to do amazing things for this country. He says that he's had the opportunity to look at, and I don't know how, that within 16 to 18 months, they want to be producing 3.5 million barrels a day of oil out of Venezuela. Within 24 months, they want to be at 5 million barrels a day. When we say Venezuela is going to boom, it's going to be one of the richest nations in the world. In one of my previous posts, I said Venezuela has the ability to be the next El Salvador and or Dubai. That's how rich Venezuela is. That's how many resources are in Venezuela. And this guy's acknowledging it, saying now, it's not a bad thing becoming the 51st state. None of this would have happened under Maduro if he would have stayed in power.
Interesting stuff. I don't know about the 51st state. Actually, I feel like Venezuelans would vote Republican, especially considering what they just went through, you know? So, hey, listen, maybe, yeah, Venezuela, okay? Anyway, yeah, I just thought that whole situation was absolutely wild to hear. Wild. How we just rendered defense systems utterly useless, right? We swooped in with this guy claims like 20 people and we're able to take out hundreds. Okay, over 100 people with 20 guys and 0 casualties on our end. 0. And not only that, but we apparently used a system that is called an LRAD, is what it sounds like, and that's super effective. That is super effective. And we've known about LRADs for, and if you don't know what an LRAD is here, I'm going to throw it up on the screen. Let me see if I can find one. Find a video of it on X. We might have to go to YouTube, though. See if we can find one. LRAD. No, there's a video of them talking about one. Yeah, we might have to go to YouTube. We might have to go to the tube. Yeah, let's see here. Because I want to show y'all what this actually is so y'all understand something that was similar. Let's see.
You might have seen this. The Serbian government has been accused of using a military-grade sound weapon on peaceful protesters, but what do we actually know about it? Originally developed by the US Navy to warn off enemies at sea, long-range acoustic devices, or LRADs, are essentially sonic cannons. They produce sound pressure levels exceeding 150 decibels. That's 10 decibels louder than a jet engine at takeoff. And unlike normal speaker systems that send noise out in all directions and get quieter the further away you are, the LRAD uses an array of many smaller speakers to produce a wall of sound, focused into a tight beam that can travel for several kilometers without loss of intensity. The frequency that they produce is 2 to 4 kilohertz, that's mid to high frequency noise, which is where the human ear is most sensitive. When the beam hits the human body, the high intensity sound waves severely overstimulate the cochlea, part of the inner ear responsible for converting sound waves to electrical signals, which triggers the auditory nerve and causes pain, nausea, migraines, and ultimately triggers the body's fight or flight response. LRADs are illegal under Serbian law, and at the moment the government still denies their use, but around the world there have been over 100 reported incidents. They've been used in the UK and the US. LRADs are becoming an ever more popular way for governments to quickly send a crowd running. From the battlefield to the streets, the line between defense and suppression is getting harder to hear. If you like science and tech,
yeah, so that's a little bit of information about the LRAD there. And if we have, you know, some police officers who are able to use these things, just imagine what the military has. They probably have one that's 1,000 times more powerful than ones that police could use. So, yeah, crazy technology. But, yeah, man, y'all get in the comments. Let me know your thoughts and your opinions about all of this. This is some absolutely wild stuff. Stay safe out there. Peace and love. I'm out.